Governor Gavin Newsom, and I'm here with the top moments that defined California in 2024. Let's get started. Oh, I remember this one. On top of the Golden Gate Bridge. I mean, anything to get on top of the Golden Gate Bridge. I was trying to figure out what was the best location, where would be the best location to announce record-breaking tourism in the Golden State. We called the head of a Golden Gate Bridge board, and he said, if you want to do it at the Golden Gate Bridge, that'd be amazing. We said, can we do it on the top of the bridge? He goes, it's all yours. And so there I was on the top of the Golden Gate Bridge announcing $150.4 billion, all-time high in visitor spending. So here I am with Demi Lovato signing legislation she had advocated for, a content creator law protecting kids and teens from financial abuse. She had her own experience around this, and she's seen so many people that are so talented, doing so many extraordinary things online, making all kinds of money, only to see that money taken away or never set aside for them when they turn 18. And this law aimed to fix that. It was great to be with Demi. She's a special person, remarkable talent, and we appreciated her advocacy. On the tarmac of LA 28, we were waiting for everyone to descend down. These are the athletes, some of the key athletes came back, and this was the official flag transfer to the state of California, as we now are taking the responsibility to build on the legacy of 1932 and 1984, bringing the Olympics back to the United States, bringing the Olympics back to Los Angeles. And it was a lot of fun to be out there, a lot of energy. Paris did an amazing job. Now it's our job to do an even better job in 2028 in LA. Here's a photo with the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen. This is where Jensen was talking to us about everything NVIDIA is doing to change the world in Gen AI. And my biggest takeaway from this is how cool Jensen is. I mean, the guy only wears these black leather jackets. Next level, cool. And I'll say it's pretty cool that they're a California company, and moreover, just part of what makes California great. We talk about California being a state of innovators, dreamers, doers, being on the leading and cutting edge. No more demonstrable example of that than what NVIDIA is doing. I love this because this is an old shopping mall that was abandoned, and people ask, what are we going to do with these old shopping malls? State-of-the-art quantum computing center, bringing in the discipline of immunology, bringing in experts from across fields and spectrums of support to come together in a new hub, an innovation hub, focusing on the world's greatest challenges. Oh, I love these photographs. This top photo with Senator Padilla and the coalition we put together called Arches, focusing on our hydrogen, our green hydrogen efforts, focusing on green energy, focusing on decarbonizing, particularly our industrial sector in California, power our buses and trucks and ferries, and so much more. As well, we're focusing on, and this is the bottom photo here, this was a big announcement around battery storage, and a big part of our focus is how we can use wind and solar when it's no longer windy and no longer sunny. And that's about storing that energy for peak use. So it's about the time you come home, you turn on the lights, or if it's a hot night, you turn on that air conditioner after a long day at work, that the sun goes down and often the wind is not cooperating. And battery storage is the way to utilize that energy during those off-peak generation hours, and we are dominating in this space. California is the world leader in installed utility scale battery, and we have now more than any other jurisdiction in the world outside of China themselves, over 10,300 megawatts, and when I started there were 770. So here's a very unexciting photograph of a number of very exciting new vehicles that are out there, including Rivian, a California-based company that's doing remarkable work, taking on Tesla, creating more competition in the electric vehicle space. California has led the nation for years and years, but now we're dominating with 2 million electric vehicles sold in the third quarter of 2024, 26.4%. Over a quarter of all the new car sales were alternative fueled vehicles. We talk about electric vehicles, but it's also about hybrid vehicles. It's about hydrogen vehicles. Again, we do not want to cede this space to China. We want to continue to dominate in this space. And we now have over 150,000 public chargers. Over 500,000 now are at home. We're building out the largest public charging network in America. And we're continuing to invest in greening and cleaning our automobile all across the state. And we think we're having a big impact around the globe. Here's with Nancy Pelosi, conductor Nancy Pelosi, maybe Speaker Emerita to you, Speaker Nancy Pelosi to me, but we are here at Caltrain, and I'm laughing only because ever since she, decades ago, became a congresswoman from San Francisco, and I ran for county supervisor in San Francisco, we've been talking about this day. We were talking about electrifying Caltrain down to the peninsula from San Francisco down towards the San Jose area. Now as governor, and with the Speaker Emerita, we finally got it done. Well, that was a fun day. This was an exciting day. We were looking at the Klamath Dam removal project, the status of that project, and it was one of the dams that was about to be removed. And this is the largest dam removal project in U.S. history. As I speak, the fish are now swimming freely for the first time in over 100 years. It shows you how resilient Mother Nature is, how resilient salmon are, and we were able to transfer some of the land that was underwater for decades and decades to tribes that have been there since time immemorial. Well, I don't know if it gets better than this. Went to Catholic schools as a kid, and here I am with the Pope. We were advancing MOUs, Memorandums of Understanding, the one above in Italy, with our partners in Italy, and then announcing what we had done with the Pope himself, His Holiness, all focused on low carbon green growth, focusing on climate change, and being a little bit more explicit, as the Pope was himself, in calling this climate crisis what it is. The climate crisis is a greenhouse gas crisis. It's because we burn fossil fuels. It's the burning of coal and natural gas and oil. It's not even complicated. This is a special photo talking about a special session, the culmination of a special session with the legislature that came together and really stepped up to focus on the issue of transparency, to address the issue of gas price spikes in California. We saw average prices spike in California 2 years ago by over $2.61 more than the national average. Even though we didn't increase taxes, there were no new regulations, and oil prices globally were declining. Something was going wrong, and what we did was the right thing, calling it out, but also calling for a special session to get the information so that we could hold big oil accountable for these gas price spikes. Here we are on a roof in the Mission District in San Francisco to develop and invest in much needed critical housing across the spectrum in the state of California. The supply-demand imbalance is off the charts. We got to make it easier to build and address the issue of NIMBYism. And there were a series of bills that we passed here that were really landmark bills to move forward that process. We also were highlighting for the first time in decades, quite literally half a century, we're addressing the crisis of mental illness in the state of California, moving forward to implement our Proposition 1, which the voters passed last year, in March of 2024, with a sense of urgency and accountability and transparency that the taxpayers deserve. So here's the first partner, my wife Jen, just crushing it, doing amazing work on free school meals and our farm to school work, which is amazing. Now farm to schools reach 50% of all of our students. California provides free meals every day to every kid in California, no questions asked. It saves families a ton of money, keeps these kids focused not on what's not in their stomach, but what's in front of them in terms of a curriculum and focusing on their academic achievement. This is amazing. Here's Dolores Huerta in her 90s, and it's about 90 degrees outside, digging a hole where we planted one of the first trees and one of the first state parks the state has created in over a decade, Dos Rios State Park in the Central Valley. That was a great day. We want to continue to do more to focus on equity, particularly as it relates to outdoor access, and this was a big part of that agenda. California has been really focused on tackling the fentanyl crisis, and we have done that by providing 392 National Guard men and women down at the border to focus on drug interdiction. It's had a huge, huge impact, but we're also focused on economic trade, two-way trade with the region, this larger Baja Cali region in San Diego and Tijuana. And we really wanted to highlight the impacts tariff policy, particularly if we have a 25% tariff, would have on the region, the economy of our state. So here's Commissioner Dury at CHP, and these guys are rock stars. We say they're Swiss Army knives. I don't think there's a governor's ever asked more from the CHP, but also provided more support. We made a graduation marking 1,000th graduate of new CHP officers, and they're being asked and tasked to help efforts all across the state, from San Bernardino to areas around Bakersfield and Kern County. The work they're doing in Oakland, work they did in San Francisco is combined now for over 2,500 arrests, thousands of cars, stolen cars that have been recovered, guns that are involved in crime-related investigations. The CHP's really stepped up, and the commissioner's just done an amazing, amazing job. Here we are at Home Depot, and we're here with the head of the Retail Association, some of the most consequential, important legislation to address organized retail theft. We're focused on third-party platforms that knowingly sell products that have been stolen. Rachel, the head of the Retail Association, said California is a model for the rest of the nation. The rest of the country is looking at our model legislation. We balanced the budget not just for the current fiscal year, but for the next fiscal year. I know everybody mocks me, my little 1 to 2 hour budget presentations. It's kind of my yearly Super Bowl. This is a special moment. We provided for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of full-time working women disproportionately, and particularly women of color, a significant wage increase, $20 minimum wage for fast food workers, the first in the country to do this. We have seen this sector not only lift people out of poverty, but also create over 10,000 new jobs, proving that you can have a growth agenda that also is focused on workers. This is interesting. We rolled out a Jobs First and Career Education framework in 2024. It's the most comprehensive economic plan in California history, all about unlocking potential and opportunity and focusing disproportionately on rural California. California, frankly, is resting on our laurels over the course of the last few decades as it relates to economic growth and economic prosperity. And I think as a consequence of that, a lot of regions in the state have been left behind. We want to make sure we mind that gap. We build quite literally bridges, infrastructure between rural California and urban California, and we provide the human infrastructure as well, the human capital to invest in these regions, unlock the unlimited potential and diversify the economies in a lot of our rural parts of our state. The best part about 2024 is that it's been, to me, a year defined by one word: resiliency. All that stacking of stress, going through all the polarization and the politics and the politicalization of almost everything from science to climate to clearly the national elections, also local and state elections. It's good to be on the other side of that. Sure, trepidation, but also I think tremendous amount of optimism as we turn the page on 2024 into 2025, sober in recognizing our role and responsibility as a tentpole of the American economy in terms of job creation and innovation in California, making sure we preserve and protect and project our values with pride and purpose at the same time. I'm looking forward to what we can do, not only in the final days of 2024, but with the exciting days ahead in 2025.